You are listening to the Nature's Premier Podcast, episode 37, Duffy the Sea Turtle. Here on the Nature's Premier Podcast, we talk about everything from bees to babies and sustainable living. Join us while we talk about natural parenting and different ways to live a more sustainable lifestyle for ourselves and our future generations to come. Now let's begin. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Nature's Premier Podcast. I am your host, Brooke Nichols, and I am ready to rock another informative episode for you guys today. It is our goal here to always highlight different authors, different speakers, different activists, and people who are in the movement of just making a change in the world today. So I'm really excited to have the author of Duffy the Sea Turtle on today to talk about her book and also talk about the very important mission that started it. Now, this is a children's book, however, it really is a book for people of all ages to learn about conservation. Before we get started with today's guest, a word from our sponsor, Nature's Premier Diaper Service, New York's cloth and compostable diaper service, providing families throughout Long Island and New York City with a healthier way to diaper their babies. Check them out at www.naturespremier.com to learn more. Now on to the show. Our guest today is Ellie Jackson, author of Duffy the Sea Turtle. She is a teacher, author, and devoted mother of 4 young children. She loves being outside with her kids and puppy in all different kinds of weather and enjoying nature with her family. She enjoys dam building, mud walking, and bike riding. She just moved to the UK from Australia and is loving the different seasons and elements. Having studied environmental science at university and teaching geography for 6 years, it was a natural progression for Ellie to teach her own children the environmental message within this book, and the idea for Duffy was born. Ellie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Brooke. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am so excited to talk with you today about your book, Duffy the Sea Turtle. Can you kind of give us a little bit of background about why you decided to write this book and kind of the message behind it?
Definitely. It was something, it's been 2 years in the process, and I've got 4 little children. So we were really lucky. We lived in Australia. We had a wonderful kind of life on this tropical island, and it literally was everything you could imagine. There was the palm trees, the beach, the sunsets, everything was going on there. It was a dream kind of come true. And we only lived there for a year, but it was long enough to get a feeling that you never wanted to leave this place. And whilst we were there, they had this amazing kind of turtle release. The whole island came down. There was tourists everywhere. They packed out the beach, there was TV cameras, and out came these 2 little boxes, and we all formed aisles going into the sea. So 2 aisles, 1 on each side, and they opened the box, and all the children looking, the cameras, out came the turtles, and they were gone within about 20 seconds from being let out of the box, straight through into the sea and swimming away. And it was a really emotional feeling to see these little creatures. And they'd been a year in the aquarium, getting better from their different illnesses and things. And it really touched on my children. They were only very little, kind of 5 and 3 years old. And they were, "Mummy, what happened to the turtle? And why was it sick?" So we then went to the turtle hospital, which is in the mainland, and learned all about these turtles, why they got sick and everything. And this particular one that had been released was sick due to ingesting too much plastic. So she'd got sick. She'd eaten too much, and some fishermen had rescued her. The turtle hospital then took her in, and she was probably about a year in this aquarium, putting on weight and things. And yeah, the moment her flippers hit the sand, she knew exactly what to do, and she was gone into the water. But what was amazing for me, from my point of view, was my children, once they made the link between plastics and turtles, every time we went to the beach, and we were on the beach a lot, as you can imagine, on an island, a very small island, they're running around the beach, "Mummy, we're saving a turtle," and they're picking up this rubbish. And every piece they picked up, they felt like it was actually saving this turtle's life. That's one turtle saved. Right, let's save another one. And in the end, I couldn't hold any more plastic. There was kids, can't save all the turtles, but they were just so enthusiastic. And I thought, how can I possibly share this message with as many children as possible? And I thought I'd write a book. So that's how it all began.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. And, it's very true because kids seem a lot of times to make the connection more so than adults would. You'd be surprised. I guess maybe because of the daily stressors that we have. And, sometimes we just don't look at it from like a kid's perspective, so they'll see that even though maybe somebody will walk past the beach and see a straw on the ground and think, oh, it's just one straw, what can that do? A little kid will run up and say, oh, that can save one sea turtle, and it's very, it's a very, good feeling to know that you're helping. So what are some of the things that you have found, like feedback that you have gotten from the book? Are children seeming to like make the connection between conservation, cleaning up our waters, and the animals that it's affecting?
Definitely. It's one of their well-loved creatures. They love turtles, everything to do with them. And the book follows the story. It's the true story. It's the turtle getting sick, rescued, rehabilitated, and released. And once the children have understood this process, it's very quick for them to make that link between the problem and how they can help. So whether it's picking up rubbish on the beach, which surprisingly they love to do, and it's not just my children. I see lots of children picking up rubbish on the beach. Mm-hmm. Oh, Mum, there's a bit. Yeah, here's another bit, Mummy. And it's not only that, it's also filtering through to the rest of their lives. Things like recycling. They might catch dad or mum. I won't say a single out dad.
Right.
They might catch one of their parents, throwing away a can of soft drink or something into the regular bin, and they say, Mummy, no, we need to recycle that. There's little conversations that are coming into their day-to-day lives, really, about how we can use less plastic. I've had people coming in saying, oh, my son loved the book and now he doesn't want to eat crisps anymore because they're made of plastic in the packet, and they went and hunted all around the supermarket for recyclable crisp packets, which of course there aren't any, but this was coming from a 3-year-old.
Are those chips? The crisps are chips?
Sorry?
Are those like potato chips?
Yeah, potato chips, that's it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's their day-to-day kind of lives that are really making little things that we can all do that perhaps as adults, as you say, busy lives, we don't always make that extra effort to do, whereas they will pick us up on it because they're seeing, they've got the enthusiasm, if you like,
right,
to push this forward in their families.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting because before I found out about your book, I was reading about the statistics here in the States. I don't know about other countries, but we lose like on average 100,000 marine animals every year due to plastic, predominantly because a lot of the plastic looks like food, to like hungry jellyfish or sea turtles. Actually, they think the bags are like jellyfish. And there was actually this one statistic that I saw where this one sea turtle, his whole insides were just full of like plastic bags. And we're overfishing, and all this plastic that's coming in is just destroying the water, because it's easy to see pollution on the ground, in our forest or in our parks, and then clean it up. But a lot of people forget about the water. They have no idea. Like, it's literally like a cesspool. It's becoming such a bad situation. And it's like 30% of the water we can't even use now. It's completely polluted. So it's really good to see that there are books coming out that are teaching our youth about this, because even something as simple as picking up a straw or picking up a plastic bag, I mean, it really does make a difference. Imagine if everyone did that, we would not have any of these issues that we're dealing with as far as conservation goes.
Well, I just read a quote from Oprah, actually, a couple of days ago, and it said if every person in the US picked up a piece of litter today, that's 300 million pieces less that are going to be put into our environment. And you think that's an incredible statistic.
It's almost, sometimes these statistics just sound really crazy, but that's how bad the plastic situation is. And we just had an episode on the podcast about the rise of plastics, and it was pretty much about how plastic started, and less than 10% of every single plastic that we've made since its inception back in the early 1800s has never left the earth. I mean, it's still here. The only 10% that we haven't, it's been incinerated. So 10% of that plastic has been incinerated. The rest that we've made are still on earth. Like, it's still here. It is such a problem, and a lot of people don't see it. So that's why it's really important, I think, that kids do learn this at a young age. And like we were talking about earlier, can you talk a little bit about that documentary you were mentioning, Blue Planet? You said it was having a big impact on your area.
Definitely. There was this documentary Blue Planet in October, David Attenborough, BBC, it went absolutely crazy. All of social media was, Twitter erupted after the documentary had finished. Everyone was talking about it at school, and just people were saying, what can we do? And the newspapers were full of it, and it just raised the profile of the issue of plastics beyond what you could ever achieve otherwise. It was incredible. David Attenborough with this albatross chick and the amount of rubbish it had eaten. And going back to what you were saying earlier, it was the mum albatross, that she's eating the fish and then she's feeding the fish to the baby, and then the fish has already got the plastic inside the baby, inside its stomach. So that's how the baby was getting the plastic inside its own stomach. But it's just to have this on primetime TV and in all national media and press and all over social media was incredible feeling to be at this point in our country's kind of history. Now the government have jumped on board with this. They've seen the reaction to Blue Planet and the government, and now they've got a 25-year plan, which sounds very far in the future still, but they're tackling single-use plastics as their first kind of port of call, and in particular our love of coffee and the disposable coffee cup. So they're now putting a charge onto the coffee cup, or wanting to put a charge, I should say, onto the coffee cup. I think it's about 25p, which is perhaps less than 50 cents for you. So it's to try and deter people from taking the disposable cups and instead to bring their own reusable cup.
Well, it's funny that you say that. It's because under 50 cents, we're having like I mentioned earlier, in Suffolk County, in New York, they just passed, or it's actually on all of Long Island, they passed the reusable bag law. So like you can't get bags from the store unless you pay for them, and it's only 5 cents if you get a bag from the store, like a non-reusable, a plastic bag, and people are like freaking out, and it's only 5 cents. So it's like, but it has to happen because I think we consume like 500 billion plastic bags a year. I mean, it sounds so crazy, and especially when you take into consideration that those bags aren't going anywhere because they don't break down unless you burn them. So, and then you burn them, and then toxic, things go into the environment, and then it pollutes the airways. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you're really in a bad situation. So even like you said, 50 cents, I could imagine there would be protests in the street if they charged 50 cents. So.
It's actually, I read today that the majority of the UK population are for the tax. They're happy that it's going ahead. So that just goes to show how this is taken hold of the national consciousness and how people are wanting to make a difference. It's like our eyes have been opened now. And once you see plastic, you can't unsee it. It's everywhere. It's in everything we do. Even glitter now. There's whole nursery chains have banned glitter in the preschools because it's actually microplastics.
I heard about that.
For years, glitter was glitter. It was great fun. But now, of course, we know what's in it. And once you see it, and my son brought a glitter-covered card to me from his preschool the other day, and I just looked at it in horror, because all I saw was glitter and plastics, and instead of the beauty of what he'd actually created. But as I said, once it's there, once you know about it, you can't just ignore it again. The facts are clear. It's having a huge impact on our environment, and it's such an overwhelming issue.
Yes.
It's not something that's just going to disappear overnight, but every little step and every little change that we make, whether it's reusable carrier bags, bamboo toothbrushes, whatever you want, how far you want to take it, it's all those little things together, and each person thinks, what can I do? You really can. Every single piece of rubbish that's stopped from going into the oceans is lives saved, whether it's from a shrimp, a tiny little microorganism, and that works its way up the food chain to the great big whales and our best loved creatures.
Exactly.
And to see them suffering, for children to see, I mean, that's the difference. You can't show children the devastating images that we see as adults. The seal with its neck entangled in fishing net, or the birds with their stomachs full of plastic. You can't show those things to little children. There's a hideous, horrible video going around of the turtle with a straw being pulled out of its nose and pouring with blood.
Yes.
And it makes your stomach turn as an adult. You can't show children that. It's too upsetting and too overwhelming. But you can read them a story with a happy ending, and they get the idea. They still are enthusiastic and they're actually inspired, rather than being overwhelmed and depressed and thinking, oh God, where do we start? They're like, mummy, or kids, they want to do something to help, which is brilliant.
Absolutely, and that's a big reason again why we really wanted to showcase your book, because it's very disturbing, and it's funny you mentioned that turtle with the straw, because I actually posted it on one of our pages maybe about 6 months ago, and it got flagged because it was graphic imagery, but that it's graphic because that was all caused by one straw, like one single use straw, so it's extremely devastating. And back to when you were talking about from the shrimp to our beloved, whales and other marine animals, people don't realize when they eat fish, they're eating plastic, because most fish have some kind of plastic in them, especially on the West Coast, heavily polluted oceans. I mean, there's plastic everywhere. Like, we really can't get away from it. And that's why it's really important that you don't have to be a level 10,000 environmentalist to, reduce your plastic consumption, but definitely even making a change like your coffee cup, or I don't know how you guys are over there with styrofoam. Is that used a lot where you are?
Yes, it still is.
Okay.
It still is, but they're coming in with alternatives. They're coming in with cornstarch and different ways. And I was talking to a local supplier yesterday, and he was showing me what's available out there in terms of like takeaway packaging and things. And what he showed me, you would think it was plastic, but it's not. It's completely biodegradable. And it may not be the exact answer that we're all looking for, but it's a start, and it's going to make us aware, so we make changes. And it's a whole part of the puzzle. It's children learning about the issue, but not that. It's adults making the choices, and then it's the manufacturers making the alternatives to the packaging, and it's the ministers and the government making the taxes to encourage us to do the change. So it's the whole thing all working together. So that's really key, to make sure that everyone's doing their part.
Well, yeah, and baby steps too. I mean, I mentioned about the 5-cent charge for non-reusable bags. Like, if we were to do 50 cents or do something more drastic and saying they're banned completely, people wouldn't jump on board with that. It has to be something that they could see in steps. Okay, now we implemented this tax. Now less people are using plastic bags. Now it's less, torque on the resources that we have. We're using less plastic. So it's kind of like you do see it within a couple-year frame. More people are willing to make a bigger change with that. Now, aside from your book, you said that you had some other things going on. You had another program going on that you were working on you said it had to do with plastic straws?
Yes, then this is where it comes to baby steps. You have to start somewhere, and something like the plastic straw is a really easy switch for us to make. It's not going to make a huge difference to us. You can drink a drink without a straw. And yes, there are people who do need a straw, and young children and elderly people and some people with certain medical conditions. Definitely, if they need a straw, we're not against straws for people who need them. We're against straws being just frivolously put into drinks when you order a cup of whatever it might be, a smoothie or something in a cafe or a bar, and we just accept the straw. We don't even notice it. Oh, here's a straw, let's go. And so it's for us now in the UK, there's a real push on no straw at all. So every cafe, we're hoping, will be serving drinks without a straw. If you need a straw and you ask for it, you're getting a paper straw back. So that's the difference. And the way the book is helping to raise awareness of that is I'm working with local businesses. For example, a small town, maybe 25,000 people, and all the local schools and preschools are getting a copy of the book donated to them by local businesses, and the teachers are reading the book in schools. Now, the children are getting enthusiastic from the books. They're motivating the teachers. The teachers are then taking the book back into the lessons and working on it, developing the children's understanding of the issue and getting them to the point where they're then able to write letters to the local businesses asking them to stop serving plastic straws. Now, because all the schools have done it all at the same time, the local media have got involved, and there's a real buzz in the town about the book and everything. And then so when that local business owner gets that letter arrive on his doorstep or her doorstep asking them to stop serving plastic straws, they think, oh, I've heard about this. My daughter was talking about that. Or my grandkid or my next door neighbour. Oh, yeah, I'm happy to do that. That's not a problem. And especially if you've got a local supplier of paper straws on hand to kind of fill the gap, if you like, and make that transition easy for the business owner, we're getting an incredible rate of response. People are just yeah, not a problem. I'm happy to do that. Yeah, where do I sign? What do I do? Yeah, let's get rid of these. And I'm watching them take off their plastic straws from the counter and throw them in the bin. And it's just an amazing thing to see, all from the power of a simple children's book in the right hands, with the motivation and enthusiasm of the children. It just spreads to the families and then the local businesses and the wider community. And yeah, it's been fantastic to see.
That's amazing. And it's interesting that you say that about the single-use straws, because I think people don't realize, like, even let's say if you go to like a fast food restaurant, regardless of anyone that you're at, they'll always throw like a bunch of plastic straws in your bag. They'll throw a bunch of, disposable utensils, and it's like it's such a waste, you know what I mean? Like, and it all adds up. It's really alarming, but I think that's amazing that you guys are working with that. Now, can you tell us about? Now, you said your new book is coming out in April.
Yeah, so I've got one book is about the turtle. I've got the second book, which is about a puffin, and that's about the problems linked in with balloons. So what goes up, what must come down, and how when we let balloons go in balloon release and things like that, then it's showing the children what can happen when they come back down to the ground and into the sea. And then the third book is about a seal, and this one's to do with ghost fishing gear. So it's the old fishing nets that are left in the ocean. They've got tangled on wrecks, or been the trawler tackle is broken, or whatever it might be. And this fishing gear, they call it ghost fishing because it kind of just floats around and it hangs around for years and years. Because, of course, it's not made from rope like the old fishing nets. It's made from plastic or nylon. And that hangs around indefinitely for who knows how long that hangs around for. So it's another marine-based issue linked in with a seal, a beautiful animal, and what can we do to help? So
wow. I actually wasn't aware of ghost fishing. That's actually the first time I've ever heard of that. I thought they used rope. They use plastic now?
Yeah, all the nets are made of kind of plastic, nylon. Yeah, it's not rope anymore.
Oh, geez. And that's left, and you're saying that's left in the ocean and it stays there for years and it affects the marine life.
It causes huge amounts of, even the problems of bycatch. But yeah, Indian Ocean, wherever you want to think, any ocean in the world, it's got these awful nets just kind of floating about below the surface, unknown to anybody. And what can you do about it? So it's trying to teach the children about the problem and how they can help. So line caught fish, for example, and etc. So.
Oh, that's amazing. So are you going to make not fish, are you going to make books with different marine animals that are affected by plastics?
Not only that, I've got 4 books in my, two published, one coming out and one in my head still. And then, my background was environmental science and geography. I used to be a geography teacher. And so I've got ideas coming all over the place. And this is the sad problem, of course. There's so many issues, environmental issues. Where do you even kind of look? So I'm just focusing on the marine environment to start with. And then, who knows, we'll spread out from there. Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing. Now, where can our listeners find more information about what you're doing and purchase your books? Like, where can they follow you on social media?
So the books are called Wild Tribe Heroes. They're the series of books there. So you can search Wild Tribe Heroes on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And then I've got a website, which is www.wildtribeheroes.com, and they can order there. And I do ship internationally. I actually have shipped quite a lot out to the States, a lot to Australia. And I'm in a position where I'm getting the books translated. So they're going into schools in countries like Kenya, India, Indonesia, in their own language for the children there. And we're also, not only will they be in a hardback copy, a paper copy, but for the schools in particular, I'm looking to do a low-cost or free digital copy that they can access to the children in those schools. So we're working with local charities on the ground, and they're getting the translations done, and then they're going to be helping with the distribution of the books. And that, to me, is really exciting.
That's incredible.
That's going to reach the hundreds of thousands of children in their language and just bring that awareness. And it's the fact that it's a picture book. That's something that these children, all children, can relate to. It's fun, it's engaging, it's a happy story. They're going to walk away feeling this book is inspiring them to make a difference. And the sentiment of the book lasts a long, long time after they've read it. My son will go for a walk and he'll, oh, Mummy, there's a piece of rubbish. And he went with his nursery, his preschool class, and they went for a walk around the local field, and he was picking up rubbish, and then the other kids, like the 2-year-olds, were then picking up rubbish. They didn't even know what they were doing, but they were following him.
Oh, that's amazing.
It carries on. The message keeps coming back to little things that you do through your life, and the children pick up on that. So yeah, it's been a fantastic how it's taken off over here.
And when can they get that? When does that the Puffin book, when does that go live? Like, when can they purchase that one?
Oh, that's available now. That released before Christmas, so that's available. And then the third book is out at the end of April.
Okay, end of April. I'm just writing that down because I want all three. So, and I would love to have it signed. This is the problem, of course, as you can imagine. I'm surrounded by social media and newspapers and all these different issues coming up, and I'm thinking, quick, I've got to get the book out, or I want to get this, and I'm forever, Facebooking or emailing people about it. It's a really exciting time, and it's an enthusiastic and inspiring kind of project. So yeah, I'm really lucky to be involved in it. Well, I think it's incredible, and like what you're doing, I think is so important too, because again, like, it's a beautiful book. It's beautiful illustrations. It's a happy story, because we know not the real version, but the real situation that we're dealing with is extremely heartbreaking. And if a child saw that, like you said, they would get discouraged, they would get depressed. So I think it's really important that children have these types of books to lean on to learn more information about, because they're not going to be receptive if it's an extremely graphic book, like we mentioned earlier with the sea turtle with the straw. I mean, imagine if that was a picture book. Like, it would be freaking heartbreaking. You know what I mean? Like,
it would.
It's
of course,
really
by
sad.
By the time a child's old enough to watch a video like that, maybe as a teenager, their habits have been formed. It's almost it's going to be so much harder to educate them as to what they need to do. Whereas if you're getting them at age 2, 3, 4 years old, this book's aimed at 2 to kind of 10 or 11-year-olds. Even the 2-year-olds, they follow the pictures. The pictures are beautifully done, and the eyes, the expression of the animal just tells the story. They can see when she's sick, they can see when she's better, and they can see how people have helped. And they're role playing it. The children in the preschools, they've got their mini worlds there. They've got all the sea animals, and then the sand and everything. And they're adding in plastic bottles and plastic bags, and then they're adding in the people, the Lego people coming to save them, save Duffy the turtle. And, all these kind of comments that the 2 and 3-year-olds are coming out with. It's just so lovely to hear.
Yes, and they are the ones that have to know this. I mean, we can give them the information, but when push comes to shove, like, they're the future. The fate of these animals are going to be in their hands. I mean, hopefully that they're there when our children are grown up. Like, we talk a lot about deforestation and the fact that a lot of, like, the pygmy elephants, they're on their way out. They're almost extinct, and there's a lot of different wildlife that our children are never going to see. They may never even see the rainforest. The Amazon rainforest is pretty much extinct almost. I mean, it's pretty endangered. They may never see them. Okay, so that's the thing, and we're just really concerned about the state of the environment, the state of pretty much major pillars in our world. We have the rainforest we're worried about. We have the marine life that we're worried about, different oceans, different bodies, different forests. So our kids really are leading the way, and we are really excited to promote your books, and we are excited to see what more Wild Tribe Hero books are to come.
Brilliant. Yes, thanks. And if anyone wants to get involved in any of it or use the books in their area, then please just let me know. Just drop me a message on social media or get in touch through you, Nature's Premier. Then yeah, I'd love to. I'm happy to ship books all around the world. It's not a problem for me at all. So that would be brilliant.
And they can find you, like you said, on Facebook. Are you on Twitter? Are you guys on Instagram?
Yes, all of those. Yeah, Wild Tribe Heroes.
Okay, awesome. All right, Ellie, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate for having you on, and we look forward to speaking with you guys again soon.
Oh, thank you. That was brilliant. Cheers, Brooke.
Thank you, Ellie. Bye-bye. That wraps up our interview with Ellie Jackson of Duffy the Sea Turtle and Wild Tribe Heroes books. Please do check her out at duffytheseaturtle.com, where you can learn more information about her other books and learn about the story behind Duffy and the efforts of conservation that she is trying to teach to today's youth. Please do check her out on her Instagram handle at Wild Tribe Heroes and also on Facebook as well under the same handle. Definitely grab a book for your little one or friends that have young children. This is something that's so important for them to learn because, again, the children of now are our future of tomorrow. They are our future adults. They will grow and hopefully they will spread this message. And they won't have the same issues that we have today with our wildlife dying, with marine animals dying, with the pollution that we're having, with just the plethora of issues that we have in the environment today. It's books like this that will imprint on your child's mind and will help them grow up to be more environmentally conscious, environmentally sound, and also want to make an impact on the world as they get older. Thank you all so much again for tuning into today's episode. Please do rate and subscribe to the podcast. It really does help get our show out to more people who can use this information. And please do send us an email if you have any questions or looking to collab on a future episode of the Nature's Premier podcast at podcast@naturespremier.com. Thank you all so much again. Until next week, we hope you have a wonderful, stress-free week ahead. Take care, friends.